Hello, welcome to the Mythology Manifest. After my last video, you managed to get me up to 103 subscribers, so thank you for that, I am very grateful. After that, I put a poll on Twitter to see what myth or mythological character you wanted to see or hear about in this video, and the majority picked one of the most famous witches and nymphs in all of mythology. She is featured in The Tale of Odysseus, in Percy Jackson, and has a book written by Madeline Miller based purely on her story. She is Circe. I hope you enjoy it. So, in the past, I've heard her name said in many different ways, including Circe, 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 and my preferred way of saying it, which is Circe. She was the eldest child of the sun titan Helios, and one of the 300 very power-hungry daughters of Oceanus and Tethys, whose name was Perses. When Circe was born, it was said that her eyes were a bright gold similar to that of a hawk, which is pronounced as Kyrkos in Greek, which is where Circe, or Kirke, gets her name from. Circe had 3 siblings, 2 brothers, one called Perses after their mother, and the other was called Aeetes, who became the Witch King of Colchis. She also had a sister whose name was Pasiphae, and I've done a video on Pasiphae, but simplified, she is the mother of the Minotaur and wife of King Minos of Crete. In some other tellings of Circe's myth, her mother is actually the goddess of witchcraft Hecate, but I lean more towards liking the Helios and Perses version of her parentage. In every telling of Circe's story, she is banished by her father and the Olympians to the island of Aia, spelled Aeaea, where she lived on her own with her pet lioness and pet wolf. Each tale seems to change the reason that she was banished to Aia, but the main 2 that we get are that she either killed her husband and father of her 2 children, Eridius and Latinus, and the other, which is my preferred version as to why she was banished, is that she was one of the first witches in mythology, and the gods didn't understand her magic, and so they feared her and banished her out of fear. But although she is banished, Circe still manages to make an appearance in 3 of the most well-known ancient pieces of literature: the Odyssey, the Argonautica, and Ovid's Metamorphoses. The Odyssey is the tale of the hero Odysseus, and in Book 10 he ends up on the island of Aia, and his men come across Circe. In some tellings of the myth, they try to assault her, and in others she just decides to assert her dominance. Either way, she turns the men into pigs using her wand, which was known as the Rabados, and the herbs available to her on Aia. Luckily, Odysseus was not with the men when she turned them into swine, and so the god Hermes came to him and gave him a plant known as moly, sometimes pronounced moly, which is actually where we get the term holy moly from. This plant protected Odysseus from the power of Circe, and eventually she agrees to turn the men back into men. And after a while, her and Odysseus fall in love, and together they have a son called Telegonus, who was born a while after Odysseus left Aia, and later in Circe's tale, he leaves to find Odysseus. In the Argonautica, which is the tale of Jason and the Argonauts as they search for the Golden Fleece, Jason and his new wife Medea, who is the child of Aeetes, so therefore Circe's niece, arrive on Aia. Circe is incredibly welcoming, but senses that Medea cares for Jason much more than he cares for her, and that he may not actually want to be married. It's an incredible interaction between the 2 most powerful witches in history and mythology, which is made even better when Medea reveals she needs cleansing for murdering her own brother. Knowing what a heinous crime this was to the gods, Circe kicked them from her island and tells Medea that if she ever returned, she would give her over to Aeetes. Circe is mentioned again in Ovid's Metamorphoses, and this takes place before Circe was sentenced to life imprisonment on Aia. The minor sea god Glaucus goes to Circe and tells her that he is in love with another sea nymph by the name of Scylla. He asks Circe if she has any magic that would make Scylla return his feelings. Glaucus didn't know that Circe actually had feelings for him, so when he asked her for help with another woman, she grew incredibly angry inside, but she didn't show it. Instead, she claimed that she could help Glaucus and poured some herbs in a pool and got Scylla to enter it. When she did, Circe used her magic and cursed Scylla to become a monster with 12 heads and dogs around her waist. Both Glaucus and Scylla were horrified, but Circe was incredibly pleased as she'd gotten what she wanted. Glaucus no longer had feelings for Scylla. And Scylla actually features in the Odyssey as well, as her heads shoot down to eat multiple of Odysseus's men. Now, technically Circe is a nymph, which is a minor goddess in mythology, but because she was the first witch after Hecate, she is given the title of Goddess of Sorcery, and from this I take that everything magical comes from Hecate, but the actual spells and craft come from Circe. And they are all the major points that you really need to know about Circe. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please like, comment or subscribe. In this video I mentioned Pasiphae and Hecate, and I've done videos on both of these mythological characters, so feel free to check those out if you want to. If you would like to, you could also follow this channel's Twitter, which there is a link to in the description below. Please let me know if there are any videos you would like me to do in the future. Let's continue keeping classics alive. I will see you next time on the Mythology Manifest.